Welcome back to Toys on Tap. This week is going to be an insane week as it starts our three-part series with Mutant Vinyl Hardcore. MVH comes on and talks early life before we even get to toys. We start to touch on toys at the back end of the episode, but next week is going to be all about his career, and in the third episode, you'll have to stay tuned to figure out what it's all about. If you want more Toys on Tap, you want to support us in a free way, like, subscribe, rate, review wherever you get podcasts. It helps us. It means the world to us. You can subscribe on YouTube, subscribe everywhere, at Toys on Tap. That is super helpful. Follow us on all socials at Toys on Tap. It lets us get to more people, and we're so pumped about that. If you want to support the show, you can jump on the Patreon, patreon.com/Toys on Tap. That's where you get extra goodies when we make them. We're still trying to figure out how to do that more regularly and what to do with it, because we love that people want to support, but we want to offer you something that means something to you as a listener of Toys on Tap. We have incredible projects coming up this year, some amazing ones, Depressed Monsters. We added a Hemo Adventures to it. We got a couple that I don't really want to talk about yet, but they're so good. They're so good. And Queso Jones is almost done at the factory. It will be here soon. The next KMB is almost beginning at the factory, and it will be here before you know it. We have this shirt, which you can find at CollectedCon and on my website, which is part of this release with SNZ Toys. And in collaboration with Mark Nagata, we have a shirt that is coming out that we cannot wait for. It is the most insane shirt that we could have done, and we're so pumped to do it with Mark because we love Mark on this podcast. Now let's get to this week's episode of Toys on Tap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's crazy about like your history and lineage, in which we're going to get into and all that stuff, like there's so much going on there. And then
there's a lot.
seeing all your stuff with coming back and from Japan and the heartbreak that kind of goes into that.
That's for sure.
So,
have you been to Japan or no? Well, what I'm saying is, like, once you go there, you kind of see exactly what you're like. Like all the all the hype is real, and everything there is just, I don't know how to put it. Like the people are very polite and nice. Like this going into even like your most basic places like a 7-Eleven or Family Mart, they greet you. Like the food quality is just so good. So like, yeah, you go there, you enjoy it for a while, then you come back home and it's like, it's just not Japan. So it's like the withdrawal is for real. So, but yeah.
Holy moly. Well, this week's episode's going to be all about the beginnings. We're not even going to get like too hardcore into your creations. We're going to save that for kind of episode 2, but we kind of want to hear the backgrounds and stuff. And so we start every episode of Toys on Tap the exact same way. Please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay. All right. Well, my name is Rich Montanari. My tongue dream here. So, I am the owner and operator behind Mutant Vinyl Hardcore. I do pretty much everything here: design, sculpt, package, paint, you name it. Like I'm the guy. So, yeah, you see my presence online. I'm behind all of it, doing every single possible thing.
That's crazy. It's hard to tell people that like toys are the craziest version of a small business, because you are doing absolutely everything.
Everything. Yeah. I mean, like I come from a small business, like my family, my father, he started a gym, a local gym, and then turned it into a Gold's Gym. And then that grew, and now it's a powerhouse now. But like I grew up around, entrepreneurs and, a family business. So growing up, I mean, I was very, I don't know, it was just normal for me to see how the workings of a small business is. So I'm very comfortable with it. And it kind of just seems like that's how work is. I I worked there for a while, and then I drove trucks for a while. So I've seen both sides of, either working for a family, working for somebody else, now working for myself. So I mean, I see how it all is. I mean, I wish, more people got to see exactly how all the workings are made here. But yeah, there's a lot that goes into this. It's not, it's a team effort, but it all falls on your shoulders at every possible turn. Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. So take me back. I mean, you see
Yeah.
this kind of work ethic with your dad. Take me back
Yeah.
to the beginning of the things that are kind of molding you into this person who we see today,
Mhm.
like the toys, the things you're
Yeah.
collecting, the
Mm.
childhood you grow up with.
Mm. It's funny. I've been doing more interviews recently, so like I've had time to kind of revisit these thoughts too. So they are, I've been able to really think a little bit more deeply about exactly all these points in my life. Um, I will say the earliest, like I mean, I've always wanted to be an artist in some way, right? Like I don't know, as a child, I was just drawn to drawing and any kind of art I can get my hands on. And it was just, an
Yeah.
obsession, So I say about the age of 7 or 8, my father started a small gym. And one of the members was a artist for Marvel Comics. His name is Ron Garney. He's still a pretty big artist today. Does a lot of work. But around the age of 8, he would see me sitting behind the counter at my father's place, just kind of doodling. And he kind of told my parents, like, "Hey, your son's, seems to be pretty interested in the arts. You should enroll him in this class or that class, or at least pursue it." And then he would bring in, drawing supplies, because my parents didn't know, but being an working artist, he's like he would bring in, like, proper pads, pencils, pens, uh, and then he would even bring in, like, cells from the strips that he was drawing. And he started out with the GI Joe, so I saw like how an actual comic book is made, because he would bring in these large panels, because I didn't know, like,
Heck yeah.
he would draw oversized and they would shrink it. But he would, anyways, he would come in, he would live draw. Like, I still have these sketches of, like, Batman or whatever, because he would just draw all these things. And I was like, oh man. And that was like probably the first uh clue to being like, oh, there's a career in this. If I, even as a child, I was able to see, oh, you can do this. Like, here's an actual, I like comic books. There's a guy this is how the comic books are made, right? So like, I can get a job being a comic book artist, and so just seeing that, and then being around, like, again, my father having a gym where there's all kinds of personalities. And I saw, like, you can, there's not just one job. Like, a lot of people are raised with, like, mom or dad doing this job, and they almost never get to see them at work, right? They kind of just, they go to school, they come home, they hear a little bit about mom or dad's job or the day, and then there's never really anything there. But I would actually go to my family's place, so I would see all right, mom and dad are here. They're here for the day. We're talking to the customers, helping them get signed up, cleaning up the place when it's done, locking the doors, ordering the drink, like, you name it. Like, I get to see, oh, that's how it goes.
Interesting. I mean, that is weird. So you see all the parts of your family's business, from the
Mm.
like beginnings to the ends of sweeping up floors, doing all the stuff.
Yeah. Mhm.
And then you see the coolest thing of, like,
Yeah.
comic books and stuff, and so you're kind of merging these two worlds that exist.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so it's this, as as you're kind of forming, like, early in life, like, all these ideas of, like, work and careers, and just, what you want to be when you grow up. It was definitely all kind of casually established, so that by the time I started becoming, like, in my teenage years, I was kind of figuring out, like, what do I really want to do in my life? You know, the path was always, I just wanted to be an artist in some formal way. Just wasn't sure exactly what it was. Like, you're younger, you kind of start going through, like, well, I like this or I like that. You don't really know exactly like it's hard to narrow it down to exactly what it's going to be, you know. And I mean, like I wasn't until I was in my late shit, even my late 20s, even almost 30, that I decided, you know, being a toy designer was going to be the goal. So I mean, it was a very long time of trial and error before I even came to that conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, your toys are so unique, the sculpts are so unique, all that stuff is so
Yes.
unique to who you are. What are the
Mm.
toys that kind of changed you as a kid that are now
Mm.
influencing what's happening right now?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say, right? I mean, it's everything. Like I remember being, you know, little, and it's weird. Like, you know, as a child, man, like every kid, toys are kind of like uh, important to your life, right? I mean, like that's one of the first things we have that's ours. It's your toys. So I still remember being little, and for my birthday, my parents would always buy me like this a massive bag of toys from like Child's World or Toys R Us, and they would just get me like my father or my mother, and they would always just get me like the coolest shit. Whether it be, you know, He Man or GI Joe or, you know, Mask, like you name it, whatever was like cool. Star Wars. They would just grab as many as they had, and they would just, you know, I'm an only child too, so like I didn't have brothers or
Okay.
sisters, so they would, you know, so they definitely took care of me on the holidays and stuff, and you know, birthdays were always very special. But yeah, so like I would just get like this massive dump of toys, and it was just all of it, and I think I, you know, so it's to say it was one or the other that's not even possible. And then like also growing up on, you know, on barbarian movies and fantasy movies like, you know, Conan and you name it, like all those all kind of played a part in forming what came to be me as a designer myself and my brand. But it wasn't like it was ever planned. It was just kind of like all the things that kind of really did interest me, and they all kind of just kind of locked in, and it kind of comes like this mashup of all these things.
Hey, we're going to pause here. Do you love Toys on Tap and want to come meet us and hang out with us, see what we're doing in person? We are going to be at CollectedCon in April. In June, we will be at the Pasadena DesignerCon. And in November, we will for sure be at Las Vegas DesignerCon because we love that show. We cannot wait. CollectedCon, we're doing interviews on the spot, which we're really excited for. We'll have media. We are going to co-release it with Strange Cat Toys, which we're really excited for. At the Pasadena one, we just get to have a table all to ourselves, and it's going to be amazing. And then when we go to DesignerCon, we have a couple booth options of what we want to do, and we will let you know as that comes closer. But come see us, come say hi, come spend time and talk toys. We absolutely love every bit of that, and we want to see you there.
Do you have any interaction with early kaiju monsters? Any interaction
No,
with early Japanese toys?
not at all. No, not at all.
Weird.
I mean, there was on the East Coast, man. There was a bit. I know there's. I know a lot of the guys on the West Coast. It was kind of they kind of grew up, and it was definitely around in the culture. But out here on the East Coast, man, there was the closest I would get would be like Voltron, right? And that, you know, you would get the American versions of all these things, but we never got like the hero shows, like, you know, on any of the writer shows or any of that. So that didn't exist to me. So like even like with anime, I didn't like there was no anime until I was probably an early teenager, and then again I was enrolled in like an art program, like a local art program, and I remember one of the older kids brought in like a bootleg copy of Akira, and it was still like in Japanese. It was like it wasn't even the English dub at that time. It was like he bought like, and I was like, the first time I saw that, I was like, what is this? You know, like what is this? You know, so like I kind of I didn't even see anything much Japanese related till later in life. But yeah, early years was mostly all like, you know, you got the classics, like between He Man, GI Joe, you know, stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time I saw, like, you're a little older than me, so like, it was just some VHS that some kid brought to
Mm.
school, and I lost my damn mind.
Yep.
and so I
It's
can't
cool, right? Yeah.
imagine. Yeah. And then, but that was in
Mm,
English. So like, let's talk about that. That was in English. You
yeah.
watched a Japanese only
Hmm.
anime and somehow
Yeah.
still were psyched out of your mind.
I mean, like I still remember it. Like you
Yeah.
all have those kind of like moments when you're like you see something for the first time and it's like you don't realize it in the moment, but like this is life changing. Where it kind of either blocks in or sparks some new kind of thought process. Where like I didn't even know that was possible, but now I just want to explore that. Especially like if somebody for like a young budding artist where like they're looking for all these things. Like you don't even know you're looking for it, but you're looking for it, right? Like you're looking for all these inspirations and all these things around you that haven't the form your take on things. But yeah, I mean, seeing that, Fist of the North Star, all these, like I was able to catch these things way early on, and these kids would bring it in, and I'm on VHS, and it was just there was no English dubs. It was just straight. Somebody bootlegged it. Somebody got it as a gift somewhere, and here it is, man. Check this out. So it was really cool to see.
Dude, following those storylines with everything in Japanese must have been
Mm.
wild as a kid.
Oh, I wasn't even
And
like
then
trying to.
trying to tell other people about it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing too. Like I wasn't like because like at that point I don't know what the fuck they're saying, right? So you're kind of just it's just all visual, and like and the thing is like it's
Yeah.
since you are they're like the visual is not lacking in any of those. You can just go on the visual. You don't even really need to know what they're saying. You can kind of see like, all right, this is some kind of fight scene. This is some kind of crazy bike ride scene. Like it's just it's good enough. Like I don't you can like that's why I think I was drawn to a lot too. Like maybe late 90s, you would see like bands like say Daft Punk would take anime and they would just put that in the as their video and just lay over, the music, right? So like I when I was coming into like the rave scene in the late 90s, I was like it was all kind of tying in too, right? So like you would have these rad visuals with music. So you didn't even really need to know what they were saying. You can kind of just be like, that looks cool. That's really all that matters. I wasn't really even too concerned with the story of it. I was just the visual alone was like that's all I needed, you know.
Which is so sick. I like because it's a different animation style. It's different,
Mm,
and to find that in the art like program that you're in, that's got to change what you're drawing. Your art. I mean, starting young, you see the art that's being done in your parents' shop, and then
mm,
you see this style of art that comes in as
mm,
anime.
mm.
Like your art style is already so different than what most kids are jumping in
Oh
with.
yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
how
Mm.
is it changing and shaping?
I it's just I would say it went from that and then so I was born in '78, right? Like so like my childhood was in the '80s, but then like I really I was a teenager in the '90s, and I mean like I don't want to sound cliche, but like I'm one of those people who are like, man, the '90s was fucking rad. So it was just then like hip hop came out with graffiti culture and I got into that as well. So it went from, jumping back and forth between, you know, as a child seeing, like growing up on like, say He-Man and Mask and, uh, Thundercats, and then having a friend that's in Marvel Comics drawn for say, you know, Spider-Man, Thor, doing all that, and then getting a little older and coming into the hip hop scene with graffiti, and then again back and forth to anime. It was just a constant changing of different styles of art, but it was all like lowbrow art. It wasn't, I really was never interested in traditional classical art. Like studying your traditional art masters, right? I was always interested in lowbrow stuff, and then even friends of mine being in like hot rod culture, I would get into say like Ed Roth and like Rat Fink, and then pinstriping and all again all lowbrow art. So that was where everything kind of came together.
I mean, what's crazy too is having this family that is running their own business, and
Mm,
then you being a kid and saying, like, oh, I want to go do art. Is there some kind of thing that your parents are like,
No,
we don't do art. Like, you need to get to
no,
work.
no, not at
Okay.
all. I mean, no, it was never. It was they were, yeah, they were again. My father being a business owner, he was never. They were never like, no, you need to. There was no like, you need to get a career. It was more like, all right, find what because he was like he opened up the gym because that's what he wanted to do, right? So it was always like,
Mhm.
find what you want to do and then just do that, and you'll make a career doing that. Like that was always like the most important thing is doing what you love, and then the money comes as just comes on its own by itself. Like if you're sitting there trying to say, I need to get a job because I need to make X amount of dollars. Yeah, you can do that for sure. And that's the majority of people do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But given the chance or given the opportunity, I know a lot of people would be like, I'd rather do this and whatever, if I can make a living doing that, fantastic. I don't need to be a millionaire. I don't need to, if I can live comfortably and I can raise a family or I can do this, that's good. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like I'm very happy. So that's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, like so no, I was never one of those families where like you need to do this. No, they're always like, If that's what you want to do, pursue it." It was never really, you know, any draw. And
Yeah. Which
the
seems so unique for the 90s for a parent to say, like,
mm,
yeah, like, chase what you want.
yeah, I agree. I mean, that was definitely the time when like college was becoming. I would say the early years of like college, everybody should go to college. I mean, like not, it was like that borderline between a generation before that was everybody you had to go to work, right? Everybody like those plumbers,
Mhm.
electricians, factory work, and then that led to like those parents saying, I don't want my kid doing this. You need to get to college. You go to a higher education, become a doctor or a lawyer, yada yada yada. So kind of right in that cusp of what you know parents in that generation were doing. It was like kind of going back and forth. Yeah. So there was definitely a lot of parents that were like, no, your kids need to go to college and you get a college education and do this. And there was a lot of parents going, no, you can just do, let's get them a trade and, there's trade schools and shit, so it was never, any real narrow line. Yeah.
Man, I mean, that's absolutely sick for that. So tell me about these middle years. Did we end up going to college? Did we stick with art through doing like, you said you did truck
the,
driving, that kind of stuff?
the middle years, man, it's all right. So I grew up in New Haven. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with New Haven, but it's not really like it's kind of a a bad city. I mean, especially in like the '90s, it was like one of
Okay.
the top five of like crime cities in the country. So there was a lot of gangs, a lot of violence in New Haven. So like, but I grew up in New Haven, in a kind of a shitty neighborhood, and so I say between the ages of like 14 and on, like I was in the still with the friends I made them, still friends with them today. That's not as close, but I mean, like, none of these people were. Most of these kids were college dropout. I mean, high school dropouts, and that's kind of what happened with me for a while. So by the time I was 18, I got kicked out of high school. So I didn't finish high school when I was supposed to. Thankfully,
Hmm.
I did have a family, so they were like, "Come work at the gym," right? So I worked at the gym from the ages of 18 to about 27, and in that time period is when I was like, I don't wanna work the family business. I mean, like, this was my father's dream, and my uncles eventually, partnered up with him and became a family business for my father, my uncles, my grandfather, they all kinda but it was not my thing. Like, I was never really into fitness. Like, I work out, but it's not one of those things because, like, I grew up around it. So, to me, again, like there was you see all these big bodybuilders and people are always so like, oh, but like, to me, it was just like, that's just another guy, right? I looked at people, well, all, muscular. And like, to me, that's just another dude. I know these guys, they're nothing special to me. So I really wasn't interested in it. Right. So like by the time I was about 24, I was like, all right, let's go back. I went and got my high school diploma, and then I was like, all right, I think I'm going to try to go to college now. So I found a local art school that I wanted to go when I was a teenager. And I'm like I was 25 by the time I enrolled, And I started, and it was just like, I mean, it sounds crazy, man, but 25-year-old, I'm in college with like 18-year-olds, so I felt old, right? I'm like, this is just, I'm too
Mhm.
old for this shit, but I'm only 25. But I
Yeah.
did it anyways, and I got through like the first year. But even then, though, I was like, again, I'm working at the family business. I'm trying to go to school, and I'm realizing like, all right, things need to happen fast if I want to, I can't wait 4 or 5 years to go through college, get out, try to find work. I'm like, I'll be 35 in 10 years if I'm lucky just getting started. I'm like, this can't work. That I'm trying to come to those like realizations. I'm like, shit. So, you know, living at home about 26 now, but I was like, I wanted to get out in the house too, like, so we're kind of like in that period where it's like, I'm looking to make a proper career path for myself. That was what I wanted to do. Want to be independent. You want to live on your own. I'm with my girlfriend at the time, which is now my wife, but like we're also like living at my family's, and it just kind of got too much. Right, it was just too much going on. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I need to, I need to break free. So I quit my family's gym. I got a job with Poland Springs driving a truck, and with the college thing, after a year of getting like my fundamentals, and I was asking professors nonstop, like, what do you do and when you graduate? And it's funny because like, like, so I'm a little bit older than these your 18-year-olds are in there, and they're more focused on like the art, man. But I was really focused on like, what do I do? And like, I'm like, how do I set myself up for I graduate? What do you guys do? And like the majority of the
Yeah.
answer was just kind of like, you kind of teach. And I'm like, fuck that noise. That's not what I want to do. I
Boring.
want to, yeah, I'm not coming here to be part of the system. I'm coming here to learn how to be. So I said, all right, I dropped out of college. I got the truck driving job, but this was kind of the point where I got into toy like sofubi and like, Kidrobot forums, and that's how this is all kind of starting to come together at the same time.
Yeah. So I mean, that's such a disappointing, we've done close to 300 interviews, and
Mm,
over and over again you hear these art professors or art teachers or whatever the hell they are,
mm-hmm,
they like tamp down the
mm-hmm.
potential of students, and they say like, nah, yeah, I mean, you can teach and that's cool. Or like in talking with Mark Nagat, they were like, oh yeah, you want to give up the airbrush, that's not what we do here.
Right.
And it's
Yeah, that
like,
too.
you were supposed to do art, like shut the hell up.
Right. Well, that was the thing, man. Like like going to art school, trying to figure out, like, well, what do I want to do with this? And it really kind of came down to fine arts or illustration. That was really it, right? And like even then, like graphic art, like that was still kind of relatively new. I mean, you had, yeah, maybe 10 years of Photoshop, and but it's still relatively new. So like for the most part, you're going to at that time you're going to school, and they're still pushing fine arts illustration. You can become you can go the traditional route of becoming a fine artist, going into the gallery space, or you can get into illustration and doing freelance work for, fucking Hallmark, you name it, right? So it's like, I don't know if I want to do that. I mean, like, it's cool and all, but like,
Yeah.
and then even like a friend of mine, like I did from like Marvel Comics, but I haven't spoken to him in a while at that point. But even that was, there's so many people that were in that field trying to get into that. They had more than enough, you know, comic book artists. I mean, you can get that a dime a dozen. It wasn't so hard to, that was a hard job to get because everybody wanted to do it. And it was so the labor got cheap with that too. So there was like the being an artist, there was a very limited like scope of what you can do. And I'm like, I just don't like, I kind of, not that I lost interest, but I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man. I really like, what do I even do with this now? So again, but again, that was when I was always collecting toys to some extent. And that's where I found the Kid Robot message boards.
Yeah, tell me about the toy collecting throughout
Mm,
working at the gym with your family and then doing art
mhm,
school. Like
mhm,
toys, even now,
you still
Mm,
hear people that like toys aren't art
mm,
to them, and so having
right.
an
Yeah.
artist look at toys,
Hmm.
it shifts it differently. So tell me about this collecting that's kind of seen through this whole thing.
Right. I mean, I think I don't know. At some point, a lot of people like just kind of go, "Oh, I'm an adult now. This is just childish bullshit," right? I
Yeah.
mean, today is definitely more accepted. Like everybody's kind of like cool with like you can just nobody really looks down at that. But for a long time, yeah, there was you're an adult, man. Put that bullshit away, you know. But I was always like, I think what I like to do most was like you would take a toy and it was posable, so you can draw like an action sequence and you have an actual posable mannequin now. You can use it. Or and then you would also have like, if you like to draw or comics, you can say, all right, I can buy a Spider-Man toy or a Spawn toy, especially Spawn from Farland, and you can pose it how you want it and then just draw it. So you would able to have like you can make your own. They would use these for posability things. So you can collect it. It's cool, but like you can have a double use for it. You can actually draw it. So
Yeah.
I collected a lot of Spawn toys. It was just fun to to collect that, and I don't know that kind of kept the whole collecting thing going for me. Like I would just constantly be looking to buy toys, and then that kind of was about the time when like the art toy, kind of started coming to existence, and you had Cause and that whole wave of artists making art toys. It was like, oh, like that it kind of came out of nowhere to me, and that's when I discovered Kidrobot. Again, being a New York based company, it was like right there, so I was able to go down to like Prince Street in New York to their store and see some of the stuff in person. So I'm like, oh, this is just, oh, there is art in this. And they would kind of expose it to me, you know? So that's how that kind of
Yeah. I think the
started connecting.
dude, early Kid Robot is so sick.
Hmm.
I mean, I've only been in this whole thing for like 5 years now. And
Hmm.
so I miss out on so many of those things where people are lining up around the block
Yeah.
trying to get an
Yeah.
exclusive, and
Yeah.
all these like the beginnings of cause and the beginnings of like all
Hmm.
this stuff. So you see this. I mean, the fact that it sadly it dates you because with the
Yeah.
like I get on the forums and I see Kid Robot.
Yeah.
uh but that's, I mean, that's, we forget that that's how this stuff kind of like came about.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. No, too, it's funny.
And
Sket One was local to me and I didn't know this. I mean, he was a artist for Kid Robot. So he had his own dunny. And it just happened to be through the message boards that like I met him and he's like, "Oh, dude, you're like 5 minutes from my house. Come check it out." So he was cool with me. And this is before he moved to California. So he was still living in Hamden. And so like I got to see like, oh, again, like one of those, these are the toys. Here's an artist. How did you make that? Like I'm connecting these dots again. It
yeah.
was just another one of those weird scenarios. I'm like, oh, here's how the sausage is made. So I would, go to the Kid Robot store in New York, collect dunnies, be on the Kid Robot message boards, talking to other collectors, and you kind of start building those friendships, and then exploring like, all right, I'm gonna take this toy. I being in like it being in art school too. Like I'm gonna take this toy, I'm gonna paint it because these that they're having paint contests, or they're making like the DIY dunny so you can actually paint it yourself. So there's like a whole world where like they want you to paint on this like as art.
So I mean, doing this other job, um, and not being in this art program or art school anymore, are you trying to
Mm.
keep up these skills? Are you just drawing nonstop and figuring out other ways to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think I ever really like just being some kind of inclined to art in some ways. You kind of don't ever really stop, right? Like you can sit there and if you're sitting with your friends hanging out, you can grab some stuff and you start fiddling with it and you'll start drawing or you start making something, whatever it is, you just kind of just do it. You know what I mean? So you're kind of just always doing something. So no, like no, I really wasn't pursuing any more like oil painting per se. But yeah, I was still do drawing work. Like I would still, just keep drawing things or trying to perfect, you know, studying how to draw better. But it was like, as much as I enjoyed drawing, it wasn't until I discovered sculpting that I was like, really fell in love with art. I mean, like drawing is fun, is great, but like being able to sculpt something and you have it in 3D, you're actually able to manipulate it, and it was just somehow you can play with it. It was way more interactive, and that was like that's what I want to do, you know. And I had a few basic sculpting
Yeah.
classes in college, but nothing like this.
I mean, you get to this point where there's this competition of painting the dunny,
Mm,
and you are all of a sudden starting to connect these dots of like, okay, how do we make toys here?
mm,
And is this where we take up sculpting more? Like, first of all, did you compete in
mm.
that painting competition?
I did. I put a few things in. The Kidrobot always had something going on, right? That was so. I mean,
Hmm.
I would just but I didn't know how to really approach it. A lot of a lot of the early artists for Kidrobot were more like graphic designers or graffiti artists. So they kind of really approached it really well, or at least understood it better than I did. So I really didn't know how to approach it. So I kept it simple. I would paint, this cool eyes or some kind of little things on it, but it was nothing really anything special, So it was just not that it got overlooked, but it was nothing like all the rest of the stuff was really eye catching, and mine was just kind of like it's cool, but it's not anything special. So no, never really got too far with it.
Hey, let's pause for a second. We know that sometimes running a Kickstarter is tough and it's anxiety inducing, and there's a lot that goes on with it. And we know how much goes into the toy creating process. We want to walk with you. Toys on Tap has done a couple of Kickstarters and they've done super well. And we have a couple more launches coming this year. We're really excited about that, and we want to help you do this. We now have this advisory role where we can step in and help you run a Kickstarter and help you really figure out if this is the route that you need to go. Honestly, Kickstarters don't fail after they launch, they fail months before they even come close to launching. And we want to make sure that you don't fail. So if you need help or you want to talk through it or you want to set something up with us, let us know. You can set it up easy. Send us an email. It's in the descriptions. You can find it. You can send us a DM anywhere and we'll touch base about your Kickstarter.
I mean, those competitions, because I've heard a little bit about some of the stuff that they would do. You're competing
Mm.
against
Yeah,
some insane artists that are all of a
yeah,
sudden getting
hmm
to like paint up a toy.
yeah.
Um, so tell me about this, like starting to sculpt. Is this the era where we
Mm.
start to see the beginnings of your figure making, even without like making the figure yet?
Somewhat, right? So like it was definitely a couple year period where I transitioned from like the Western Kid Robot toy, and then going to Kid Robot, going out there, going to Toy Tokyo, and Toy Tokyo had more of a selection of all kinds of toys. So there wasn't just Western; they had Western, but they also had Japanese makers, and that's kind of when I discovered like Bounty Hunter, Secret
Yeah.
Base, those brands, and that's what kind of led me to like, what is this? Especially with Bounty Hunter, because it was kind of like again they produced Cause, they produced Kozik, and then they had their own line of things with the Coons and like the Skull Coon. And, like, it was kind of a Western type of toy, but also with the Eastern stuff too. So it kind of like pulled me into that, and that's when I was sort of trying to figure out more about these, and I came across Skullbrain, and Skullbrain was pretty much only focused on Japanese toys for the most part, and I kind of really fell into that. Um, it wasn't for a little while that I got into sculpting. It was only because after I started getting into like the Japanese style toys, and from customizing stuff on Dunnies, I started customizing stuff on the Japanese toys, right? And especially with a
Hmm.
brand Realhead. And it was through that doing too many customs that it kind of got back to the maker of Mortisan. Um, I didn't realize it, but Japanese makers toys at the time, like they're all super independent. So it wasn't like say a Kid Robot toy where you would have it made in a factory in China. You never seen like the maker. The Japanese stuff they did. So you would you can actually interact with the guy that made the toy. And I didn't know this. So I was painting customs And it got back to the the owner of Reelhead, and he was like, "You got to stop painting my toys." Like I paint these things personally, you know what I mean? You're just taking my work and
Yeah.
destroying it. So I'm like, fuck, you're right. You're absolutely right. So I realized at that time, like, if I want to make toys, I enjoy doing this more than anything. I got to make my own, So I try to hire a sculptor locally. It was a tattoo shop,
Yeah.
an artist at a tattoo shop, and I mean, again, most artists are kind of like, yeah, man, I could do this, and then like they if you're not professionally doing sculpture work for a living, you're professional tattooist. Sculpture work. That's going to be like I'll get to it when I get to it. So it really wasn't
Yeah.
working out. And that's when I was like, fuck it. I mean, like, I have a little bit of basic 101 sculpting from college. I'm like, I'll just try it myself. And then it came really fast to me, like really fast. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't know I could even do this. You know what I mean? Like, so once I started like playing with it, I'm like, oh, this is it. And like that's when like the wheels really started moving going forward from there. But it was once I started doing sculpture work, I kind of just said, fuck everything else. Like I was cool with I was kind of like, all right, I guess if art is just about either illustration or oil painting, I should probably just put my time and effort to that. And I was always kind of like not really excited to do it. But once I started doing sculpture
Right.
work, I was like, I could not stop myself from wanting to sculpt.
Yeah. So tell me about the year that this is
Mm,
kind of happening, and then I have questions
mm.
surrounding your painting early on.
A year. This is, we're probably, all right. So it's 2026. I've been doing it full time for about 10 years. So looking at 16, I'm going to say, I think I made my first toy in 2010. So we're looking around like 2000, maybe between 6 and 9 was when all this is kind of
Okay.
forming. And it's a long
So
time. Like
you are painting.
mm, I'm grabbing stuff from say Toy Tokyo, or I'm ordering it from the shop Super 7 because they had, it was a direct access to Japanese stuff being from San Francisco. So I through the message board, sometimes they would even do like specialties just for the message board. They would let you order directly. So I was able to get,
Mhm.
all these Japanese toys. So that's kind of like I was getting them and I was like, oh, I'm going to customize these things. To me, it just looked like again, it was just another toy. It wasn't, I didn't know
Yeah.
how deep Japanese toys are made. So that's kind of around the time and how I transitioned from Dunnies to say, circular based toys like the Skullbrain itself.
So in early painting, I mean,
Mm.
in Japan, there's places. I
Mm.
think what's the paint they use? It's like FOK, and
Yeah,
like
Miss
you
V
have
color.
a
Yeah.
newer, yeah, and the newer Wonder Goblin paint here. And this early paint that you're doing on these,
Mm.
are you just using like acrylic paint or whatever sticks to the outside of the toy?
Kind of. Yeah. I was you got Tamiya, which is like you go to like most model shops in the States and you can get, either the spray can or the little glass bottles of it. Uh, but yeah, there was really nothing here. Like everything kind of it worked, but it was tacky. It was never really good. It wouldn't bond. But just from being on those message boards, that's when you would have like the Japanese collectors or the hobbyists to be like, oh, they actually make paint just for this. And this is like we're going like before like the United States post office really cracked down on like shipping. You could just send paint.
Yeah.
So we would just, no man, I got you. I'll just send the paint to you. So you're, so I would get, like V color shipped to me from a friend of mine from either Japan or, from California. So I would get, you, V color more than anything because it seems like little bottles. And yeah, I was able to use that. I forgot. I think I was able to get V color thinner at the time too. So it was pretty like you had like your basic colors. You wouldn't have any of this massive list of colors, but enough to get rolling. So that's when I was like, all right. So I had access to, actual Japanese paints. And that's when like I could refine this a little bit. So yeah.
It's crazy that it like you were already doing so much that it got back to the artist and he was like, "Hey
Hmm.
man, let's chill out on this."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was I mean, until you know, you don't know, right? And I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't blatantly being disrespectful on purpose. It was just like I didn't, you don't know. So I was like, oh, it's just another toy, like, and it's another factory made toy. I like the shape of it. It looks fun. I'm gonna paint it. I know a little bit about the toy maker, but I didn't know like, hey, this guy's really you know, it's all invested by him. He paid for everything. He paid for the sculptor, for the factory work. He paints some of the stuff himself. I didn't know any of this. I just thought it was like another like, another toy. But yeah, like since everything is so closely knit that he was able to get word to me through other people living in Japan that were on the message board, seeing this and getting it back to him, and being like, hey, you should. He's directly saying to you to stop doing this. I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know.
Jeez. Okay, so you start sculpting and you do
Yeah.
that, and you're talking about the reality that this starts to come easy to you, or
Mm,
like you're starting to learn it at an alarming rate.
mm,
Um,
mm,
are you modeling these clay things that you're already starting with off of what you see? Because you're now in these toy
mm,
shops, you see the toy
mm,
things, you are
mm,
now seeing the Japanese sofubi. So how
mm.
are you sculpting, and what does it mean to you when you say like you're picking this up quickly?
S- So, yeah, I mean, once you kind of start like, so even like for anime, Japanese toys, they're very forgiving with shapes and character design. So like American stuff is very humanoid, right? You have He-Man versus G.I. Joe. They're human shapes. There's not like these weird monsters. So this is very, rigid in the design. Whereas the Japanese stuff, man, you have pollution monsters and whatever it is. They don't really have a shape, right? So once you start talking to like, I formed the connection to a factory, and they're like, listen, this is how toys are pulled. It's all, you got to go with the gravity, there's slush cast, uh, you know, these are the joint system. Cause I was able to take them apart and be like, all right, this is simple, male, female joints. There's nothing, like not like a Spawn toy where you have 14,000 different joints on it and is jointed with, wires and elastic, you name it. But this was just very simple, very traditional, like vintage toys. So they're like, listen, man, if you want to make something, you got to keep it something small, like maybe a two-piece design. Actually, I have one actually right here. So I I kind of started, looking for like designs what I can make, and so I
Oh,
made
super
there's a
fun.
your upper and your lower, and I was like, I like the pollution monster stuff, and was you can make this bubbles and boils, and then this the Buddha face kind of, I don't know, it was because of the earlobes and like the bumps. I'm like, it kind of looks like it would match. So I kind of
Yeah.
mashed these things together, and that was the very first kind of character that I came up with. And then it was again a simple two-piece design. And then since I didn't have to worry about keeping a humanoid shape, I can just explore with texture. I didn't need to have arms or legs. It could have like there's a few, let's say, like like these bumps here are kind of reminiscent of what an arm would be, or the two
Yeah.
points could be where a foot would be. So it kind of gives like it kind of reads like that could be potential arm if it were to take full shape. But I didn't need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
necessarily need to worry about, I need to sculpt the perfect arm or leg. Because I think at that time, if I were to have had to make these perfect, it might have been a little too overwhelming. But since I was, for some reason, I did pretty decent at sculpting faces. I could just focus on that really well, and everything else just had to read like it was, a potential to be a body. And keeping it two-piece design kept the production down. So that's what allowed me to get my foot in the door and give me the confidence to keep, growing with, all right, I could do faces, I can do that, I could do heads, so I sculpted just that got kind of, and then start learning how to do a body. Like, all right, I've studied the body. Like, you have your torso, your arms, your legs. This was put that together. So all these different things, but was keeping it simple at first was what gave me the confidence to keep going in that direction.
Yeah. And what's crazy is, we've talked about this on the show before, is
Mm,
access to factories now is really
mm.
easy to make
Oh yeah,
happen. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're all on Instagram now. They're all like,
Mm-hmm.
mostly I'm communicating with these factories through Instagram or WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
And, but early on,
Mm-hmm.
getting access to a factory was not easy.
No.
And it's a mix between these factories, like not knowing how to reach them, and then also
Mm-hmm.
this gatekeeping thing where people are like, nah,
Oh
I'm the
yeah,
first one here. Like, I'm going to.
yeah, yeah,
So tell
yeah,
me,
yeah,
how'd
yeah.
you get in touch with this first factory?
Um, yeah. Again, Skullbrain. I mean, like, I really liked
Yeah.
at that time. Skullbrain really gave me like everything I needed to become into this field. Like between the inspiration for design, help with paint to get started on customs, and then the factory aspect came up. Was a board member, he went by Velocitron. His name is Ricky, and he was, you know, an American living in Japan, and he was working with Maruyama Factory, and he had access to, the mold factory, the wax, all of it, and he was starting to offer people, like, hey, I can help you make a toy. So he was literally the only one though, because he spoke Japanese. And there was no other options at that time. And like, so we had along comes this guy, and he's like, yeah, I speak both English and Japanese. I can help you out. And here, I just want I want my commission fee. Like, pay me X amount of dollars to be the one that the middleman these things, and pay me and then, hey, if you want to make something like that, this is an option. So like, I'm taking this option. So that's how I got into Mariama Factory.
I've heard the name Velocitron before.
Mm,
I have no information on this person, but to be that person where you're the first intermediary between like
mm,
factories and people, insane.
mm. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, like, by the end, he had caused a lot of problems, but to
Mm,
be honest with you, man, he got me my foot in the door. So I really don't have anything bad to say about the guy. I mean, like, I know he had his issues with other people, and like he might have took on more than he could handle, and it kind of fell apart because of that. But for me personally, like, if it wasn't for Ricky, I wouldn't have this career. So like, I still
yeah.
feel indebted. Like, hey, this guy changed my life.
Jeez. Okay, so you sculpt this first toy,
Hmm.
which is that what was that toy called? Is that Sludge Demon? Is that what his name
Yes,
is?
the Sludge Demon. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You sculpt this first toy, two-part.
Mm,
You send the
hmm.
sculpt over because
Hmm.
STLs are not a thing at this point.
No.
Um, send the sculpt over. You
Hmm.
pay however much money for this piece,
Mm.
and
Yep.
then it becomes a waiting game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which hate that it's just a waiting game with no indication of what's happening. But early sofubi is what it is. And then you tell me about this is the beginnings of
Mm.
MVH. How are you
Yeah.
like coming up with the name, up with all that stuff? How are you settling on this stuff?
Well, I mean, the name came because of, again, I was getting into Japanese toys and collecting, and Realhead was the brand I liked the most. I don't know why. I was
Hmm.
just really drawn to but he didn't have a whole laundry list of characters. He had one body and like four different heads, and it was just, I don't know. It really spoke to me. So I became like a collector of them, and I started a blog just to showcase my collection and just talk about for like one of those personal blogs I can just write for myself, just to have, everybody blogged at that time. So it was like the name came from, like, these are mutants in vinyl form, and I'm a hardcore collector. That was the name. So
Okay.
it was mutant vinyl hardcore. And then when it came time for a brand, I mean, it just, I don't know. I liked the way that sounded, and then even like being able to shorten it to just MVH. Like, we would have Bounty Hunter was BXH, or Realhead was RXH. It was like MVH was like, it kind of just accidentally fell in the same kind of pattern as these other brands. Three letters, X in the middle. Or just however it worked, it felt fitting. So I'm like, I'm just gonna transition this over to be my toy brand name, and that's how the name came to be. So it was originally a blog for my fandom of Realhead, and then turned into my own brand name.
Which I love that. I love when brands spin off into that kind of stuff. Tell
Yeah, me
me about
too.
the early challenges of this kind of sofubi nature, right? Like you're just stepping into it.
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
early on, you don't really
Mm,
have something to compare it to. And
mm.
that's got to be so challenging when you're communicating through an intermediary and they're like, oh, it needs a couple more weeks, or oh, it needs a couple months, or oh, it needs this. Um,
I mean, yeah,
what is,
I don't know.
yeah, what's that like?
I don't know. You got to learn. You do have to learn patience, and I think that was like definitely drilled in, like especially like from the beginning with them. They're like, listen, man, this is the process. It can be 6 months. It could be a year. Don't fucking have.
Hmm.
Don't drive us insane. If you can do that, you're fine. Pretty much like every month or 2 months, I'll be like, how we looking? And they'd be like, it's looking
Yeah.
good. All right. Okay. I'll talk to
Yeah.
you when I talk to you. So then like, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, you get pictures of wax. Hey, the wax is done. Oh shit. That kind of like, you get these little bits of updates, and it's like, that was enough to carry you through, right? It would go from me sculpting this thing and then having to take this work that I've never, like, there's no way of saving it. If it got lost in the mail or damaged, that's it. It's gone. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So like,
Yeah.
I'm like, every possible step of the way is like, let's Hail Mary, let's go for swim. So I would send it off and it would get there. And like, I'll get the reply. I got it. It landed safe. Bet. That's enough to carry you through a little while. Like, I know it's there now, like, all right, cool. It's there. It's in Japan. The excitement alone, knowing like your sculpture work is in Japan with the factory, and it will get there. You just gotta fucking hang tight. And then you would wait a few
Yeah.
months, and they'd be like, "Hey, here's wax. All right, cool. It's there. It's safe. The wax step is happening now. I know it's in the process. So you would just kind of keep hanging tight, and you would have to just wait your turn. Like, and in today's world, like, everything has to happen like this, right? But the pre, social media, there was this is again before Instagram. So you're having you're getting it through message boards. So like, yeah, I'm waiting. I'm not too, I have my patience. I'm still collecting toys. I'm still doing all these things. So it's like, I'm satisfying my needs by collecting toys. And then this is coming. So like,
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned. I know what's happening. That was it. And then eventually you get the first vinyl pull, and I was like, oh, now it's real, right? Now it's real. And then like you learn the process. Like, all right, this is how you order. Order. It's going to be your turn, so order a lot so you could have it, and then that will carry over until like your opportunity comes again to get vinyl pulled. So I would order probably 200-300 pieces, and like back then the factories were really pretty cool. Like they would always have clear black flesh, glow in the dark on hand, right? So you can get a
Hmm.
hundred of each, and that would carry you for a long time. Especially there wasn't like this massive hunger for these things too. So I would be able to get these pieces, and I wasn't selling them like this. And you would get them, and you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna paint it, and I'll sell a few here and a few there. So it wasn't like I wasn't selling out. You know what I mean? Like I would have these things and I would sell them, and then that would be it. So like, I mean, back then too, I didn't make run sizes. I would just paint up a master and say, hey, I'm going to sell these. And, like none of the Japanese brands kind of released run sizes. So I didn't even have to say like, oh, I'm going to make 20 of them or whatever. I would just, all right, this is what I'm going to sell. And then I would get people that want to buy them. And then whatever the amount of people that were buying them, that was the run size I made. And I would just get the
Yeah.
money and paint it. And then that's it. So some of the run sizes are 10,
Yeah.
some are 5, some are 20. I don't know. That's the run size. So instead of saying, I'm going to take this and I'm going to make 50 of them and then hope I sell all of them, I would just paint the amount of people that wanted. And so I would sell exactly how much I had to sell. I wouldn't make too many and be sitting on stock. I would just paint what I had. That was the run size, and then I move on to the next. So that was like the
Dude,
solution to that problem.
yeah, it was like early versions of this is a limited edition, which I
Yeah.
love that so much. I primarily work with Chinese factories, and
Mhm.
what you're describing versus how we do things now,
Mhm.
like you get the quote thing and it tells you the day ranges on the bottom of the form of like, this is wax, this is 3D printing, this is mold, this is
Oh, I do it
production.
now. I know it now
And
'cause I yeah,
yeah,
I get it. I see it all now. I have factories, again, for China and Japan now. And so yeah, it's so much nicer to be quite honest, but yeah,
yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah. And it's like, I think what you're describing too, especially only being in this for 5 years, like
Mm,
you're describing a life that I sadly don't get to be a part of, where it was like,
yeah.
the goal here isn't to sign or to sell out. The goal here is
Mhm,
toy production and learning your
mhm,
skills and doing all these
mhm.
things. And
Yeah,
now, based off of like some of the like hype market and some of this stuff,
mhm,
it's like, oh, if I don't sell out, then was it actually successful?
right. Yeah, but that's the thing, man, like, if you're making it because you enjoy it, then it doesn't fucking matter,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and then I think
Right.
everybody gets kinda wrapped up in this whole, "I need to be this, that, or the third," and it's just kind of again, it goes back to my principle of do what you love and the money will come as a byproduct, right? It's not like if
Yeah.
you're trying to make all these things and then, yeah, you're kind of putting yourself into a box to begin with, and that's not good for creativity's sake. So just focus on the art being the priority and everything else will kind of just fall into place if it's supposed to happen. I mean, you can't there's no jobs that are guaranteed or anything, right? So like you just got to kind of put faith into it. Like, I'm going to do this. And if it's good, and then it's good. And if it's not, and then I'll know right away. And then I can just either adjust or move on. And that's how that comes to be.
Ah, yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy. Yeah, it's just a much cooler vibe to be on these message boards and say like, "Hey, this
Mm,
is the paint mat or this is the paint app that we're doing. Who
mm,
wants one?"
yeah.
And you painting up the 10 instead
Mm,
of first going to the factory saying like, "I need
right.
200 of this one colorway."
Right.
That's a whole different vibe. I mean, early
Yeah.
you're in these things before social media, and so
Mhm.
what is it like? Even the simple things of like, how do we take payment? Like, this is early eBay.
Yeah.
It feels like too.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I had to do bank wires. I learned how to do I have to get yeah. I gotta get, like, your banking information, like, your SWIFT code, your routing number, your bank information, then I gotta try to figure out how to get a wire to you in a different country. It's like, like, there was no, like, I can't put this on the credit card, and then eventually, yeah, like, you start figuring out, like, yeah, PayPal became, like, an easy way to do it too, but, yeah, so you're trying to figure out every possible method to make it because like, you wanna try to avoid fees too, right? So, like, you have, like,
Yeah.
"Alright, I don't how do we make this happen?" So you have to, like everybody's kinda working together at that time to really make it work too, so it's not like, everyone again, with as time has gone on, like, technology has made people impatient and lazy and just it's just, like, jaded to an extent, right? Like, they're just like, "Why you can just make this happen right now." Like, but, like, when there was a time when you had to, like, really do the work and have patience, and then I think that really builds, like, the character to people that, like, alright, like, you've gone through these things where it was more analog, so you had to really put the work in. It wasn't just instant gratification or instant, you can just make it happen. You had to take the time, you had to learn to be patient.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the navigation that I try to work with when I help other artists like get into this process
Mm.
has been like, patience is key. Like, let's slowly
Yeah.
build. Don't rush into this and throw 10 grand in because it might not come back.
Right, yeah. I mean, and I think that helps too I mean, like, from my point of view, like, I'm as I grow, I'm working with more, people that will produce for me, like, say, like, Kaiju One or Unbox. Or I'm starting to work with smaller places or more independent, like, say, Strange Cat toys, and it's so
Mhm.
I'm getting to, you know, if there's any kind of hiccup in our communication, I'm pretty like, "Alright, this is I mean, let me clarify myself or let me help this works out," and so I've built in that, all right, this might take like a good 3 or 4 conversations for us to be on the same page. Where a lot of people are
Yeah.
like today are like, if you don't hit it off the bat, the first conversation, they're like, this guy's an asshole. Or I'm like, no, man, like you guys just figuring out each other's communication styles, and this things have to be worked out. It's not, you be patient. It's not going to be like, it's not going to be, it might not always be a home run off the first hit, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you're at this point where you're working with other people now, but early
Mm,
on, you're building this culture kind of
mm,
around yourself and this philosophy of what you're doing in how you sculpt and learning that kind of stuff and starting with
mm,
two-parters and doing all that.
mm.
Look back over that and tell me about like how that was kind of shifting your early belief or early thing with toys as you were sculpting your first couple.
I think it's just exciting, you know? I mean, like as things start to fall into place, all these things you kind of gathered along the way kind of just start to make sense. You know what I mean? Everything I've learned, and it's like, oh, that makes sense for this. This design helps with that. It's just, I can look back at at toys and go like, all right, this is an homage to this thing. I can sneak that in there without it being blatantly obvious. You start to learn how to do all these things from this learned, what you've picked up along the way. This learned history.
When you ordered something that just came to mind, and I didn't even think
Mm,
about it. When you ordered your first, the Sludge Demon, and
mm,
you're with your partner, and she is
mm.
like, "Okay, you're gonna do this, awesome, rad," and you tell her like, "Oh yeah, I ordered 400." What's that vibe like?
I mean, my wife has always been very supportive. I mean,
Yeah.
I we we've been together for going on 25 years. So we've been together for a long time. So like, I mean, at that point, we've probably been together for 10 years, and we don't have kids. And she knows that I wanted to be, I've always been in the arts somehow, some way. Like, so she wasn't like, oh my God, we should be focused. No, it was always like, that's makes sense. Do what you got to do. I mean, it was
Yeah.
never, I've never like, but with me and my wife, she's never once in our entire time together been like, made me feel like anything that I'm doing is a wrong choice. She's always been very supportive in every move I made. And there's been many a times, to be quite honest with you, where she pushed me harder than I pushed myself to do this. So, I mean, I'm very blessed to have, somebody in my life like her.
Yeah. I mean, there's something that's so good about someone that will join in.
Yeah.
Like we were in a Kickstarter, and my wife, I don't know what happened, but she jumped in and was like, "All right, let's get all these orders out of the house now." And like,
Yeah.
call it urgency to have a clean house or urgency to help me out, one of them. But she like,
It's
we
all
packed like
same.
300 orders. Yeah. Yeah. So which is really rad. So that's awesome
Yeah,
that
totally.
is the case. Um
Yeah.
I mean, we're on the cusp right now of getting into like the bigger sides of what MVH really looks like, because from this
Mm,
side, we go to like a DesignerCon,
mm,
where I'm tabling, and then I hear people like and see people running to get one of the exclusives that you're having dropped at DesignerCon, and so it's like hearing this beginnings part and
mm,
then seeing people like sprinting to try to get a number for this lottery to
mm,
get an MVH piece is so insanely cool. And we're kind of coming up on the cusp of like what the middle of your career is going to look like before we get to
mhm.
that point. So I think
Yeah.
this is a good point to stop so I don't keep going, is what it really is.
Yeah. It's probably a smart move. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. So I mean, the last part of the podcast, it's crazy because we all know who you are, but the last part of every episode, we do this. Please plug stuff that you want people to go see or upcoming things. I know you just came back from Japan, so you're resting up.
Mm.
So this is the last part
Honestly,
for you to plug some stuff.
yeah, honestly, dude, it's not. I'm plugged enough. I'm not gonna lie. So I'd rather people like support. Just look for any artists. Like I have so many friends like between Dark Matter Toys, Manny, and Paul Kaiju, Splurt, and there's tons of other artists out there. I mean, like, especially with, the toy scene, like the indie toy scene, there's so many these guys aren't even unknown, but like there's so many makers that are growing. Some are unknown, but like find a maker that you like and then try to find other makers that are similar or that catch your eye and just support them. I mean, there's so many up and coming toy makers that that's what I do as a kind of like a fucking hobby, to be honest with you. Like, I'm always looking for new toy makers and saying, that's pretty rad, dude. Like, I've gotten so many replies back, like, you're replying to me? I'm like, I'm just another toy maker, man. Like, I'm no different than you. I just happen to be doing this longer. Like, that's really it.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't give up, and I've been doing it longer, and that's really it. There's nothing. There's no secret sauce here, dude. Like, I'm obsessed with this shit. So like, I don't have nothing to plug, but I want to plug, like, please go support other artists. Support this. There's enough to go around. Like this. Every artist, like, there's enough for everybody to succeed here. There's no real, like, there's no need to be a king or be the one in this. There's just so much to go around. So I think if anybody is watching this, they know my feed. They know my name. I'm sure they can Google it. It's not hard, but like, man, if you see other toy makers, man, like, I can go on like a list of new makers, but I'd rather just see people just go on Instagram, fucking put in hashtag sofubi, and you'll come up with limitless amounts of toy makers and just follow them. I mean, that means more to most of these guys than you could ever imagine. Just a new follow, and then somebody going, hey, I like what you do. That's enough to keep some people from giving up, So like, I prefer people to do that. Just fucking put in the hashtag sofubi or kaiju, and then find toy makers that interest you and follow them. And like, I don't,
dude,
people, I don't even know.
What a way to end the episode, just oozing humility. Holy hell. But dude, thank you so much for coming on Toys on Tap, episode 1 of 3.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you.